Hello, dear friends. This is a condensed summary of a very long Cobra interview that says some very interesting things. Opinion piece. 8 of self-management. It is neither black nor white. We are in a tug of war. The polite doesn't take away the brave. It is a fragmented reality. Ask for help or do it ourselves. This is a very complex moment. The light will expose all that is hidden. It's not about standing idly by. It's not about creating unilateral perspectives. It's not about doing it all on our own. It is about symbiosis as in nature. It's almost impossible to predict how things will work out. Only together can we make this liberation possible. Together we are much more powerful than apart. Every human being has a different life mission. Humankind has lost its spirit of cooperation. It is a sovereign partnership between several parties. We have one job and they have a different one. Visible physical change will only occur prior to the event. The ascension window would close in August 2025. The current crisis is due to the mistake of some light workers. Trees raise their branches to the sky and sink their roots into the ground. The bad guys will not win, but they will do everything possible to disrupt the process. Let's start. We are used to thinking in a fragmented duality of black or white, when there are many other options. This is the most absurd polemic I have ever known, and it is constantly repeated in social networks, since neither side is completely right, since the polite doesn't take away the brave, and one thing doesn't exclude the other. On the contrary, there is a sovereign partnership between two or more parties, and this is how it is done throughout the universe to succeed. Each part does a different job, which is not incompatible with each of us doing our task depending on each other's mission. This is called a symbiosis, and this is how nature works. It is mischievous to interpret that we are asked to stand idly by, and it is naive to think that those above us are going to fix our lives without doing our part. It's not about standing idly by and waiting for someone to come to our rescue, nor is it about every man for himself or do your best because it's your problem. It is about a constructive working partnership between those at the top and those at the bottom. It's not about passively waiting for the event. It is about doing everything you can to improve your life, to manifest the best life possible under the current circumstances. But the ultimate goal would be the event. We were born for something greater, and we can have this higher purpose. Common sense. Everyone is so emotionally polarized that they are easily drawn into negativity in one way or another. So there's a great need for common sense. The spirit of cooperation has been almost completely lost. The population never really understood what it's like to cooperate. That is something that is completely natural in the rest of the universe. We are going to learn to cooperate, and that is very important. There are two one-sided perspectives on this planet. One is that we have to do everything on our own, and the other is that we are helpless. We would be impotent and we would need outside help. In reality, What is needed here is the partnership between the surface population and the galactic races. This is the way it is done throughout the universe, and this is the way it must be done here to succeed. Together we are more powerful than apart. We have one essential element necessary for liberation, and they have another element, and only together can we make this possible. Therefore, this partnership would be necessary to empower each other and make this liberation possible. We are creating a bridge between the surface of the planet and the sky, and this bridge would trigger the event. The surface of the Earth is subject to light pressure, and the dark forces have nowhere to hide. They cannot escape into space through wormholes, stargates, or teleportation chambers. They cannot use space vehicles of any official or secret space program. They cannot dig holes and bunkers deep in the ground to hide there. They cannot longer even hide in the lower astral plane. The ongoing process of compression means that the light will expose all that is hidden, collectively and individually. When the light from above and the light from below meet on the surface of the planet, this would be the moment of the breaking of the compression. This event is called the event. It is a multi-dimensional triggering event that initiates the process of entering the long-awaited golden age, where humankind will be able to co-create its own future. Interview. The Sisterhood of the Rose arranged an interview with Cobra on the importance of the activation of the direct divine intervention that will take place this month. In this interview, Cobra and Deborah, leader of the Sisterhood of the Rose Planetary Network, outlined how the activation is a two-step process involving a worldwide mass meditation on the December 21st solstice and the signing of the planetary liberation petition. This two-step trigger is intended to have the maximum possible effect on the planetary situation. But I am not a proponent of collective meditations, but of individual meditations. The intention of this mass meditation is to co-create a trigger that would initiate the process of first contact with benevolent galactic beings and direct divine intervention. Petition. In this meditation, Divine Source will be asked to intervene directly in the situation of Earth, to trigger an intense healing transformation of humankind, and for the light to transmute all remaining darkness on Earth. We ask Source to intervene directly in the situation of the planet in whatever way is most beneficial at this time. And of course, the ultimate consequence will be the event. But we are asking for the intervention to occur now, as much as possible, and in the best possible way for the current situation. Cobra believes that the intervention that is called for is not likely to occur at this time because we have not yet reached the goal, but he believes that this meditation will accelerate the process and will be a major step toward completion. The solstice of each year is a very powerful time, and this year certain important things are converging that are planned for that time and are happening on this date, and this day is used as a trigger to make those things possible. The benevolent citizens of our galaxy would like humankind to join the galactic family, but they need a clear, strong and consistent signal from the surface population that they desire contact. A strong and clear intention. This planet has about 8 billion inhabitants on the surface, and a very small percentage of them have expressed some interest for a connection, for dialogue with the galactic community. So the signal is too weak compared to other signals coming from the surface of the planet. And that is why they need more coherence, more clarity on this. And if our signal reaches critical mass, it will be strong enough to be taken seriously, because they need to take into account all of humankind on the surface. If there are only a few people who slightly want some kind of contact, that is not enough. There must be strong and clear intention. That signal would only be the first step to become part of a galactic community, because you should first learn to behave as part of the family, something humankind has not yet done. And even to be accepted, a certain procedure of protocol would be followed, and this would be the first step of that protocol. It would be the first moment of galactic diplomacy between the surface of the planet and the galactic society. To be accepted into this galactic family, we need to be completely free of darkness before you can join, and this would be accomplished through the event process. Humankind would have first contact before be accepted as an equal part of galactic society. So first contact, divine intervention, and the event would happen first. We are coming to the moment of actually becoming part of the galactic family, and it would be a very pleasant experience, because finally at that time this planet would no longer be a world of darkness. Pleiadians. Now we are focusing more on the beings coming in their ships. First, the Pleiadians would contact selected human beings, and then it would spread further. It is Cobra's opinion that if a critical mass of 145,000 human beings is reached in meditation, this mass would have consequences of great exopolitical and geopolitical importance. The Pleiadians have a list of priorities and would contact the most conscious people who will be safe enough to go through that contact without any interference from the dark. If this petition reaches that number of signatures, the galactic forces would consider that we have represented a significant portion of humankind that wishes to initiate contact, and by galactic law they would be obligated to respond. The response might not be public at first, but a certain process would be initiated that could no longer be stopped or reversed. It would be set in motion to continue. After selected individuals were contacted, they would talk about their experience. A chain reaction would be set off, leading at some point to mass sightings of the galactic fleet, mass reports of this in the media, all interwoven with the event and with a full disclosure process. Physical contact. It is much easier for a small craft to land on private land, and it could be done without interference that physical contact. This would be easiest to manifest as soon as possible. It will be done as soon as it is safe. Before that, many people would have telepathic contact, spiritual experiences, visions and visitations in dreams. But now we are talking more about physical contact with evidence. People would be able to take pictures and record videos. All of this would at some point be distributed through the media. It is possible that this would happen before the event. The exact sequence has not yet been revealed at this time, for strategic reasons, because there are many beings who are not welcome, because they have some plans that they are not aligned with the divine plan. But people would be contacted in the final phase before the event. It is easier to manifest physical contact for those human beings who own private land for practical and legal reasons, to minimize interference from dark forces. Contacted persons must remain safe. Safety is the number one priority. This request is not made from the position of desperation, but from a position of power. It means that finally the consciousness of the surface population would be ready to reach critical mass. This petition was created 8 years ago, and the numbers at that time were about 20,000 people, but now there are almost 110,000. Visible changes. Sometimes humans have expectations that are not based on reality. People are expecting a few minutes of a strong meditation that can transmute all the darkness of planet Earth, which accumulated here for thousands and thousands of years. That is not possible, of course. The visible physical change would only occur in the last weeks before the event. Nothing would really be visible months before the event. The only time people would begin to notice the changes would be in a few weeks before the event. So, it doesn't matter how many meditations we do before that particular time, because there would be no outwardly visible changes. What changes with each meditation is that we enhance the positive timeline and prevent a lot of negative things from happening. Without our meditations, perhaps the surface of the planet would have been destroyed by now. Lightworkers have much more power than people think. And that is why we have avoided so many negative scenarios. We have avoided many wars. They have tried to create a war in Syria, in Iraq, in Iran, and in Israel, in Ukraine, you name it. So many times, and it never succeeded. The only time they succeeded was with this crisis, because the key light workers made mistakes and made crucial, stupid, selfish decisions in 2018 and in 2019. All of this could have been avoided because it was not necessary, but many things could have been worse without our meditation. Legal document. We are signing a legal document. We are creating the declaration of our unified will. And if this statement is strong enough, the galactic forces will take it seriously. They can read people's minds, and they can see all the conflicting thoughts in the minds of human beings. In one way, people would like to have an intervention, and in another way, they are angry with the forces of light. And then they are afraid, and then they doubt if any of this exists, and there is no proof. All those mixed thoughts create a very mixed signal, and they need something very clear and very coherent to respond to this. And this should be a physical action, a physical document. It should be a physical process that consists of sitting in front of your PC and signing the petition because you want an intervention on the physical plane. If you want a physical action, you need to take another physical action. When the critical mass of the petition is reached, a certain legal and exopolitical process would be established and a certain dialogue would be created. Galactic councils would meet. They would make decisions. They would initiate some action that would involve in a certain way also the surface of the planet. The contact process would be accelerated and things would be set in motion. This request would accelerate the timeline toward contact. It would authorize the galactic fleet to be more active in lower orbit and toward the surface. The galactic force would have more authority to do more things than before. They would have a stronger hand against the dark side, so they would be authorized to do more because they would know that they won't the bad guys go, not just in some confused thoughts, not filled with vengeance and impotence, but with clear intent, which is much more powerful. Galactic situation. The forces of light are creating a Dyson sphere around the Sun and Earth to reduce the strength of the galactic pulse that would come from the galactic central sun in the near future. Such Dyson spheres would be used regularly when a planet goes through such a phase transition. Whenever a sun goes mini-nova, and when conditions are just right, planets with inhabited life are protected from excess radiation, because strong solar pulses would always generate so much radiation that it might not be easy to survive them. Those spheres would filter out certain frequencies so that we would survive the process intact no matter what. Actually, they are not really spheres. They are just called spheres. They would be certain huge motherships placed in a certain position of sacred geometry around the Earth and around the Sun that create a quantum force field that filters frequencies. They wouldn't be visible, but could become visible at the time of the polar shift and the final evacuation, but not before. The quantum fluctuation related to human implants and biochips is clearing better than expected. The space-time distortion created by implants and biochips is being rapidly and dramatically reduced, and this has resulted in a significant reduction of volatility in human emotions. The only place where top-level bombs would still remain would be inside the implants, inside the energy field of human beings, where a black hole singularity exists. The implants couldn't be completely removed until the event. What people can accomplish is deprogramming the solution of limiting belief systems and the liberation of consciousness. Aquarius era. Many wonder how and when we will experience the energies of the Aquarian age. There are two factors involved here. The first is that there is more darkness than anyone expected, and the second factor is that there is less cooperation, more selfishness and more stupidity among the light workers than anyone expected. Those two factors combined have resulted in this process being less pleasant and more challenging than initially expected. The more human beings uphold the light and cooperate in a positive way, the more people will develop and manifest common sense, along with spirit of cooperation, and the easier our roles will become. The bad guys will not win, but they will do their best to disrupt this process. But if we manifest more unity, it will be a very powerful protection against that. So it is about the interaction of two forces. First one. On the positive side, we have the light workers who cooperate and manifest common sense. And on the other side, we have the dark forces who are already cooperating and who are using their strategy in a much more effective way than I have seen among most of the light workers. And then we have the light forces cleaning up the exotic technologies, but they cannot intervene directly before the threat is eliminated. But there will come a time when enough negative technologies will be eliminated and the light forces will make the breakthrough. Current or breaking news. The dark has more strength than anyone expected, but we are not headed for disaster. We are in a tug of war. We are now in a situation where both sides are equally powerful and opposite oppose each other. The good guys are opposed to all this, and the bad guys want to manifest this. On the one hand, we have a slow collapse of society. On the other hand, we have a great awakening happening. People who have not seen what is happening, even a few months ago, are now opening their eyes and seeing, and at the same time a massive positive default is happening. So here we have a dynamic balance between the light and dark plans. Both sides are quite powerful, and I expect this tension to continue until the breakthrough occurs. At some point, there will be more darkness that seems to win. At some point, there will be more light that seems to win. And this balance, these strong opposing forces, will continue until the breakthrough. We are not going back to the old normal, because it went too far. The old society has already reached the point of no return in the summer of 2019, and this cannot be reversed. The only way is upward. To what event? More and more human beings realize that something is not right, that something is happening, and people start to question things. The alternative media has been poisoned with a lot of disinformation, and when people start reading all those pieces and watching all those videos, they get more confused, but at least they start questioning the official narrative. They start thinking, they start wanting to make their own decisions, which is a very positive development. This has never happened before on such a massive scale, and this is the first time in human history that we have millions of people questioning the official story for the first time. We are in the last phase before the breakthrough, before the peak terminal flow, which is the event, and everything is accelerating. All that tension that you feel is actually more and more energy flowing, more thermal flow happening in the system, and it will continue to increase until the event. Then there will be more tension, more dynamic forces play until the stream breaks, and that will be the time of the event. Reset. We are on this gamma timeline, and this must happen, so there is no plan B. This is now the gamma timeline, which requires direct intervention. For a few years now, we were on the gamma timeline. It just needs to be unraveled to its final resolution. So, at this time, live as best as you can. Fulfill your mission and live your life in a way that is aligned with your divine plan. Cobra said that the Great Reset proposed by Davos would not succeed, and that the new financial system would be fair to all. There are people in the alternative media saying that arrests are taking place, but Cobra has said many times that mass arrests would only happen at the time of the event, and that there would be evidence in the media. It wouldn't be on some obscure alternative website without evidence. It would be very obvious, and it would be everywhere. The positive forces will not move before all subway threats, and most of the exotic weapons on the surface are removed. The process is underway, and a great majority of this has already been cleared, but not all, although it is a great process compared to last year's situation. I talked about it. It is increasing the power of human consciousness to the breakthrough, but the light forces are doing all they can to make sure the transition is as smooth as possible with the matrix collapsing. Saint-Germain has been very active over 200 years ago in the USA to lay the foundation for the new Atlantis, the new society. He was involved in the creation of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and that is a very solid foundation. If used correctly, it could already bring the new society. But people are imperfect, and that is why it takes time. Saint-Germain also has connections with France. Paris is a very important trigger point that could speed things up when the time is right. The Jesuit faction wants depopulation, but the Rothschilds are more inclined toward the Klaus Schwab type great reset of, in quotes, "you will have nothing and be happy," which looks like a techno-feudal type of society. So they see themselves as the good guys, in quotes, because they are against population reduction. But I talked about real life and a real galactic society. We are not talking about the kind of dystopian society they want to create. Cyber attacks are still on the agenda of the dark forces, and they have plans to manifest this, but the light forces are also working against this, so we will see. The official media will be forced to report the truth because it will be everywhere. There is enough awareness at this time that this cannot be swept under the rug. The insanity of the current situation is helping people to wake up, but it is happening at a slow pace, considering the circumstances and the dangers around us. We know that waking people up helps to achieve planetary liberation sooner, and many of us are doing our best, but we are labeled as crazy and conspiracy theorists if you try to open the eyes of another human being who is not ready for it. Then you can share this only with those who are ready. You do not impose this on anyone because many are not ready. Ascension. The ascension window would close in August 2025 because this would be the time when the portal would close. Lightworkers have had to endure much suffering while often being denied financial resources, healthy bodies, ideal relationships, and many of the joys of living a life of freedom here on earth. We know that all of that will change for us after the event. The plan is for everyone to enjoy enough time in a physical reality before ascension to integrate what they need to integrate. It is part of the growth process for everyone to have a happy physical life for a certain amount of time that would be necessary before ascension. When ascension happens, you would have all of that integrated. You would have no more need for that, and you would have no more need for the physical body. You could manifest the hologram of the physical body, but it would not be an actual physical body. You would no longer be the embodiment because you would no longer need it. There will be people who will have visions, dreams, revelations, telepathic communication. All of that will increase dramatically prior to the event. The initial pulse of the event comes directly from source and then filters through the dimensions and through the forces of light until it reaches the surface of the planet. Lightworkers will be among the first to have the opportunity to ascend. They will have a much better chance than any other human being because people will need to go through their healing process, and those who have done their homework before will have much less to go through. They will enjoy their life when the rest of the people process their repressed emotions quite intensely. Everyone will have to go through this process. There is no avoidance. I mean, everyone will have to face their fears, their guilt, their repressed anger, all the missed opportunities, and all the mistakes that they have made. Islands of light. The islands of light are still part of the future, after the event. There will be beings who are in a frequency that is compatible with those people who will be able to live with their soul family. This is for very advanced people. At this time, the conditions are very unfavorable for the reunion of soul families with the state of affairs on the surface of the planet. For soul families to meet, people need to have enough soul consciousness, enough higher consciousness, for this to manifest, which is clearly not happening at this time. If you meet your soulmate, you will definitely feel a very strong energy. And when you are ready to meet your soulmate, you will definitely know it. You won't need an external confirmation at that time. You will just know. It will happen more when we get very close to the event. After the event, those meetings will begin and will accelerate as the situation improves. Healing and protection. The ongoing process of compression means that the light will expose all that is hidden collectively and individually. When the light from above and the light from below meet right on the surface of the planet, this would be the moment of breaking the compression. This is called event. Many people feel it as a suffocating exhaustion, sometimes like the boiling point. Dark technologies are also being cleared, but this pressure you feel is actually the light squeezing out all the darkness. The light forces can read our thoughts and emotions, but the dark ones cannot and can only get information but what they can see through the eyes and hear through the ears. When you vibrate something enough, you will be out of their reach, and it will not be so easy for them to bother you. Many people are tired, and I understand it, and want to opt out and are leaving. This happens at the soul level. Leaving the body is a decision. It is happening quite a bit. Human beings who leave the physical plane prior to the event and ascension could ascend, even though they are not in physical body. On the astral plane, conditions are somewhat better, but it is not yet setting. Many can avoid the trap and some cannot. It depends on your overall frequency, not only at the time of a transition, but your life in general. And it also depends on their decision about what they want to do when they die, and where they want to go. Chintamani stones. Chintamani stones have the highest frequency because they come from the Sirius star system in singular, which is one of the brightest points in the entire galaxy. It is a pure light energy, and these stones are pure light. They should not be worn in times of emotional distress, because that effect could leak into the planetary energy fields. They act like a magnifying glass, and if we emit negative energy, they could magnify it and network it. It is the other way around with positive energy. In every Chintamani stone that is planted on the grid, there is an angelic being that attaches to them and anchors to that stone. So we are actually helping to anchor a lot of angelic beings into the energy grid of the planets. That would be very necessary and effective. The tachyon chambers bring in energy, and then the energy field is reorganized with source energy, and this would be the shortest possible shortcut to ascension. The physical body also reacts and brings a state of increased well-being. Brotherhood of the Rose. The increased activity of the galactic central sun has also resulted in a new influx of goddess energy for the planet. In quotes, Isis regained her crown, was a symbolic code for the incarnation of the goddess upon the surface of this planet, because the presence of the goddess has been suppressed, and so symbolically The goddess Isis regains her crown, means that the presence of the goddess will again have power, and through real feminine principle will begin to flow freely, energetically and physically over the entire surface of the planet. I talked not of a personal goddess, but of divine feminine energy. The goddess energy comes to this planet in waves. And one of those waves was in 2012, and then there was some waves after that. Now another wave of goddess energy hit the planet in October of this year. And this wave was very important because it has rearranged certain things behind the scenes. It has changed the balance of power. It has changed the balance of the forces of light, and they have accelerated, and certain things look much better than they did before. This was completely unexpected. I didn't expect this wave to hit, and it did, and it was a pleasant surprise. And now this is picking up, and it is laying the groundwork for some certain things in the next year that are being planned by the forces of light. There is not yet a goddess mystery school present on the surface of the planet. The situation is not yet ready, but there are fragments of true mysteries here and there. Goddess vortexes. Equally important are the male and female bodices, but such a great imbalance has been created that first it is necessary to activate the bodices of the goddess, and the male bodices will be reactivated only when this network is stable enough. They cannot be activated yet because there is a possibility that this power will be misused. And there is a whole science, a whole teaching of how to use the sacred oils for different purposes in order to raise the frequency, to activate certain chakras and certain higher senses. It is much more than this, and this is slowly being revealed. There are some which are quite important. One of them is, of course, rose oil, sandalwood oil, and many others. Most of them were used in ancient temples in Egypt, in Greece, in India, because they were known in ancient cultures, and they are waiting to be rediscovered. This is a very complex time. It has never been so complex. So it's one of the moments where it is almost impossible to predict how things will turn out, because it's a moment of great tension, and at the same time a moment of enormous potential. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.